Hey, welcome back guys. In today's video, I'll be going over the basics of Python. I'm actually pretty excited for this video because we are finally starting with Python. Well, that's enough talk. Let's get straight right into it then. Okay, first thing is first. Let us review what we did in our last few lectures. So we need to get into our project directory. So let's do this to check where we are. And now I can just cd documents, projects, and ds. So this is where my project directory is. And from here, I can activate my data science environment that we have created from the previous lectures. And once you see data science here, or whatever your environment name is, then we're good to go. Okay, from here, I'm going to open Jupyter Lab. And I'm going to make this like that. So quick recap, this is our project directory, which is the documents projects DS directory that we were in. And in my directory, I have the untitled IPython notebook from last time. And I've also created a new folder which contains a new notebook called Intro to Python notebook. Okay, so you don't have this yet. You can create a new notebook and just follow along. So let me blow this up. And from here, the first thing we're going to go over is variable assignments. And the syntax is very easy. Create a variable name, set an equal sign, and set it equal to whatever you want. Oops. So from here, since I did a equal to 5, now when I put a and shift enter, it will print 5 to the console. And again, if I were to do d, shift enter, then it will print hello to the console. So quickly, let me make a new variable. Let's call this my string, and I'll set it equal to I am a string. And now it's going to be registered as my string. So if I were to do my string and shift enter, it'll refer to what we had made earlier, the I am a string string. We have math operations. So math operations doesn't only apply to numbers, they can also apply to strings. And I'll be showing you guys some pretty interesting operations we can do with both numbers and string in a little bit. So first things first, a plus b. So that's just 5 plus 7 from the variables we have assigned up here. And you should expect that to return 12. And same thing here, a minus b, which is just -2. So mod is actually the first operation I thought was pretty interesting and useful. So what a mod is basically returning the remainder of a division. So for example, 7 divided by 5 is 1, and then you have 2 remainder, which in this case, it will be 2. And then you have a basic division, which is 7 divided by 5, which you get the 1.4. And this is the next interesting operation, which is a floor division, which it will give you, so instead of nearest, it's actually floor division to the floor integer. So that probably doesn't make sense right now, but here's a quick example. So when you do 7 divided by 5, we know it's 1.4. So it will just ignore the 0.4 and then round it to 1, which is the floor. And if we were to do something like 15 divided by 4, which is 3.75, you would think it will round up to 4, but it won't. So it still rounds back down to 3, which is the floor. So that's what floor division does. There are special cases where you can use that, but I don't think you'll be using it that often in real world. Anyways, next thing is multiplication, which is just 5 times 7. And here is something very interesting. As I mentioned earlier, you can apply math operations to strings. So we have my string that we have assigned earlier, And let's do times 4. Then you get my string multiplied by 4, which is just my string repeated 4 times. And you can also do addition. Let's do addition to another string. Let's do adding. And now you get a string adding. So basically, instead of adding a space in between, a space is recognized as a character, and since we did not add a space here like that, so it will just connect everything. So now I added a space. Now you see the extra space that has been added here. So yeah, there are a lot of applications you can do with math operations, and you can definitely apply that to strings, integers, floats, and whatever. And oh, as a reminder, the mod is actually a really good way to check for even numbers, just in case if you need to only conduct some sort of function on only even numbers. Scrolling down, we'll be looking at logic comparisons or logical comparisons. So this is just your typical less than equal to, greater than equal to, and then not equal and equal. So we know A is 5, B is 7, and when we do A is 5 is less than 7, of course we're going to get true because that statement is correct. And same for 5 is less than equal to B, 7, so we get true and true. But if we were to do 5 is greater than 7 or A is greater than B, we know it's false. And lastly, it's just a comparison between two numbers. 5 is not equal to 7, which is a true statement, or 5 is 7, which is a false statement. So we expect this to return true and false. So that is what logic comparison is, and we'll be using this in the following thing we're going to cover, which is conditional statements. So before we jump into conditional statements, I want to make a very important point. So as you can see here, I am using 2 equal sign. So that differs from just using 1 equal sign. When you do 1 equal sign, that is variable assignment. But when you do 2 equal signs, it's doing comparison. So remember that. Don't accidentally just do 1 equal sign. It's going to throw you an error. Okay, so let's move on to conditional statements. So conditional statement has a basic syntax of if, else, or just if and else. So here's a quick example. We set x equal to 11, and we say that if x is less than 10, which in this case it is, then it's going to print I'm less than 10. And if it's equal to 10 or equal, make sure to use 2 equal signs here for comparisons. Then you print I'm equal to 10, and else, which is any other condition, you do I'm greater than 10. Okay, so let's run that. So in this case, I'm greater than 10 because x is 11. So let's play around. Let's change this number to, let's say, 5 and rerun it. And now it says I'm less than 10 because it meets this condition. Okay, and using a conditional statement, we can also just give a specified condition. In this case, I'm just saying, hey, it's true. So if it is true, then it will just print. But if it's false, it will not run the next statement because it needs to be true to run. So it didn't print anything because it's false. And if you were to represent a conditional statement or a condition in numerical terms, then true is actually 1. So when we do 1 equal true, it evaluates to true, so it prints the next statement. And 1 is not false. 0 is actually false. So this should not print. And then, as I mentioned earlier, 0 is false, so this will print. Okay, so now you have the basics down. Let's move to the homework section. Take a pause here, read through the questions, and try to do them on your own. I'll be working through the answers in a bit, but please try to do them on your own first so you can kind of get what today's lesson is all about. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. I hope you guys took some time to try out the homework problems. Okay, let me get into the solution, and hopefully you're able to solve it before this, but feel along to follow along and see how I solve it. The first question, we set a to 3, b to 9, so let's start here. So 3, b equal to 9. And we want to write a logic to check if a times b is less than 30. So we just finished the conditional statement section. So let's do that. If a times b is less than 30, then I want to print I know my math. Otherwise, so we use else here, print math sucks. So before we run this, let's just go through it real quick. So a is 3, b is 9, so 3 times 9 is going to be 27 in this case, a times b, and we know that it's going to be less than 30. Therefore, this should print I know my math. So let's run it. And it printed I know my math, so there you go. So second part to this is change a to 10 and rerun the logic. So let's try that, a to 10. And now we know that 10 times 9 is going to be 90, so that's definitely greater than 30, so we will get math sucks. And math sucks. Okay, and another thing I want to mention is that you can also explicitly create a new variable for a times b. So for example, let's say explicit equal a times b. And then we can put this in here instead of a times b. And it will return the same result. So therefore, math sucks. Okay, let's move on to number 3. So let x equal to 7. And we want to write a logic to check if x is even or an odd number. So same thing, if x something something equal to even, right? So as I mentioned here, this is a good use case of mod. So a quick recap, mod basically returns the remainder after you divide. So whenever it's an even number, when you mod 2, it should be 0 for even numbers. So let me print even, else print odd. So once again, mods return the remainder. So for example, 7 mod 2, you're going to have a remainder of 1, therefore it's going to be odd. So this should print odd. There you go. And then if we change x to 10, then 10 mod 2 will the remainder will be 0 because 2 times 5 is 10, and then there's no remainder after you do the subtraction. So therefore, this should now print even. Okay, that's it. I hope you guys learned a lot in this lesson, and I'll see you guys in the next one.